Art, take it away.
Okay. Good evening. My name is Tamar Mishkin, and I'm the founder of Labriut, one of tonight's hosting organizations. On behalf of our hosting organizations, Labriut and Shalva, I would like to welcome you to tonight's presentation, the Shidduch event part 2. We are very excited to continue the discussion of the shidduch scene as it relates to mental health. It is an overwhelming positive response to the first event, but many people still had questions that went unanswered due to the large number of questions that were submitted. Mrs. Friedman will be incorporating many answers to those questions in her talk this evening. For the benefit of those that were not in attendance at the first event, I will be reviewing some of my remarks from then. You should each give yourselves credit for joining tonight's important gathering. It is my hope that you will find something beneficial that you can take away from this webinar. If mental health challenges have been something that you've had to deal with in your life or in the life of a loved one, know that you are not alone. I have no problem telling you that I personally was diagnosed with a mental illness at the age of 19 and was able to get married, have children, and even complete a master's degree. Baruch Hashem, this week I will be celebrating my 20th wedding anniversary. I was privileged to marry the first boy that I dated, and I didn't need to settle for someone who also had his own issues as well. My illness may have slowed me down at times, but it never stopped me. I have come to the acceptance of the fact that I will need to take multiple medications several times a day for the rest of my life. Not only do I have a mental illness, but I have an immediate family member with a mental illness as well. My mental health journey has made me stronger and prompted me to help others going through similar challenges, as I am able to relate to their struggles. Mental health challenges really need to be looked at like any other illness. They are chemical imbalances in the brain. It should be no different than telling someone that you have migraines or arthritis. There is nothing inherently wrong with you because of this chemical imbalance. The more we can talk about this, the closer we can get to eradicating the stigma around us. It is especially important to work on eliminating this stigma, specifically in the Orthodox Jewish community. I would like to take a few moments to briefly tell you about one of the hosting organizations this evening. Labriut is a Chicago-based free peer support group for local Jewish women with mental health challenges or for women caring for a family member with such challenges. We have monthly face-to-face events, a contact list, and a WhatsApp group for support, as well as a private Facebook group. Additionally, our members are sent mental health resources and articles by email often. For the time being, due to COVID restrictions, all Labriut events are virtual, either phone conferences or Zoom calls, so women can join from anywhere. Mrs. Friedman will talk about the services of Shalva, tonight's other hosting organization, in a few moments when she speaks. Just to review some quick housekeeping details. This is a Zoom webinar and not a regular Zoom call, so no one else can see your face or name. If you have a question, feel free to share your question in the Q&A section at the bottom of your screen. Be sure to click the checkbox that says Ask Anonymously so Mrs. Friedman and I do not see your name. We will not be using the raise your hand feature tonight. Please do not put your questions in the chat section. Rather, only use the Q&A section. I will be moderating the questions at the end of Mrs. Friedman's talk and will do my best to get to as many questions as time allows for. At this time, I would like to introduce our speaker, Mrs. Esther Yona Friedman. Mrs. Friedman has served the Orthodox Jewish community in a variety of roles for the past 30 years. Mrs. Friedman has been very active in the day school system, serving on many committees. She's a DONA certified doula as well as a sheitel wig stylist for 32 years. In this role, she is uniquely positioned to informally talk with women and hear their stories. This provides her with an insider's view and understanding of the complex dynamics of the Orthodox Jewish community, especially women's issues. Mrs. Friedman began working for Shalva in 2013 as an Orthodox outreach coordinator, providing awareness about domestic abuse and educating people about unhealthy relationships, as well as the services that Chavez offers. She created, implemented, and coordinates Chavez Orthodox Rabbinic Task Force to support women struggling from unhealthy relationships or domestic abuse. Mrs. Friedman currently resides in the West Rogers Park community of Chicago with her husband and youngest daughter. She's a mother to 7 wonderful children and a proud bubby. Mrs. Friedman, the microphone is now yours.
Thank you, Tamar, and thank you for that warm welcome and for the ability to partner and work together. I must admit, this is my first Zoom event. I've done many speaking engagements, but this is the first time I'm at a Zoom. I'm a little nervous, not gonna lie. Took me about 20 minutes to figure out what I should even wear. Not that you could see most of it, but just to put everybody at ease, I hope I myself am a little nervous and anxious about that. So let me so of course, my first page is not even in place. How's that? For starting out on the right foot. Okay, let's start off with the fact that conversations like these are very important. We talk about breaking the stigma and bringing about awareness. I think that conversations like this help us become more comfortable, help us be more secure with ourselves, and really help us navigate the shidduch process, coming, as I keep saying, from, and will say, from a place of strength. I'm really honored to be here tonight, and I'm coming here wearing many different hats, or shafels, or tiffles, or whatever you want to call it. Having been a shidduch for many years, I feel like I have vicariously married off many, many children, and listened to the stories and heard the issues and picked up words of wisdom and pearls of guidance from my customers. I was also able to, what I thought, guide some of the women that I worked with and give them hadracha. Before I started my work at Shalom, I thought I knew what I was talking about. Well, subsequently, once I got educated and informed, I realized I don't think that I came in from a place of being understanding, from a place of not being judgmental, and maybe that I was judgmental. So I'm hoping that, you know, since then, to be able to come forward and to teach people and educate people about how to come in with understanding and not being judgmental. And I think that applies to tonight as well, about coming in and being able to support women, regardless whether they have, and men and people in our lives, our loved ones, regardless whether they have a mental illness or not. But tonight we are specifically discussing mental illness. I also come with you sharing the experiences of the clinicians that they've shared with me about the stories of the women who ended up coming into Shalva. And there's a lot of things here that I bring with you to educate you. So I know Tamar mentioned briefly, what do I do at Shalva? So I do outreach and education, and what does that mean? It means exactly what I'm doing tonight, doing programs like this. I like to call it prevention. What I'm doing tonight is abuse prevention. Doesn't sound very glamorous, but really our goal is to help women and men who, if they are listening, to get into and establish healthy relationships, good relationships, long-lasting ones, safety in their home and security. Regardless whether you have a mental illness or not, everybody deserves that. Everybody is zocha to that. Just because I may have an issue, I might have a mental health issue, I might have something else, does not mean you are not worthy or deserving of being in a healthy relationship. A lot of what I'm going to say tonight, I probably will repeat over and over again. So I'm going to give a couple caveats. Number one, don't shoot the messenger. My goal is to be as sensitive as possible, and I'm going to try as hard as possible. Some of the things you're going to hear tonight, you're going to be like, oh, I didn't hear anything new. And some of the things you might walk away with and say, oh, that was very interesting, and that was a new perspective. So I'm hoping that I can be as sensitive as I'm going to try to be, and if I'm not, I apologize in advance. And that everybody will walk away having learned something and benefiting from coming here today. So let me talk for a few minutes about Shalva. Shalva is the oldest independent domestic abuse agency that services the Jewish community. It services all populations of the Jewish community, anybody who self-identifies as Jewish. We offer free, unlimited domestic abuse counseling with our master's level therapists who do trauma-informed therapy. They are specially trained to work with women who are challenging and questioning their marriages or know that they're in abusive marriages. I do want to say a caveat. We have to recognize that men can be abused as well, and they can be victims as well. I use the word she because most of the people that are victims or survivors are women. So I just want to give that. And anybody who calls Shalva, whether it's a man or a woman, if they can't provide services for them, they will direct them and they will help them in the best way that they can so that they can seek help that they need. We have some financial assistance to our clients and some legal assistance as well. And we have some direct legal services as well. One of the things that we have at Chavez is the Orthodox Rabbinic Task Force, which I'm most proud of. And we in Chicago as a city should be proud of the fact that we have 12 Rabbanim who have stepped up and are willing and have taken the time to understand and learn and train and work with the women in our community who are struggling with domestic abuse or questioning their relationship. We have to understand that as frum women, we're unique in the fact that we cannot underestimate the value of the hadracha of a Rav, that input, that understanding of what they say. It's a very powerful position. So we have two ways of using the task force. One way is that there's a special 800 number. It's really an 855 number. I will repeat it a few times, 855-474-2584 or 1-855-4-SHALVA. And that's a number where the 12 rabbis that are on our VOD, I'm not gonna list all their names, but you can find them on the Shalva website. You can call the number and you will be given a menu of different rabbis' names, and they can be reached directly and you can speak with them directly. If not, they will call you back if you say that it is safe to do so. You can leave your name. You don't have to leave your name. You can call Shalva directly, 1-773-583-4673. That's 773-583-HOPE, H-O-P-E, for those of us who are spelled challenged like me. And you can reach a therapist there and speak with them. What we find very helpful is when a client comes in, when a woman comes in and is facing certain things that she needs rabbinic guidance, support, it's amazing that we have the therapist, the client, and the rabbi all coming together to best support this woman the way that she feels she should be supported. It's done with confidentiality. A release has to be signed in order for the therapist to speak with the rabbi. I know I mentioned all services are confidential. Not sure if I did, but they are, which means that when you call in, there's an intake process. You can give your name. You don't have to give your name. You can give someone else's name. When a client does come in, or finally that has an appointment, it is in an undisclosed location. So people don't know where it is, and that's for safety reasons, for the safety of our clients, for the safety of our staff. As well as when a woman comes in, for example, I don't know the women that come into Shalva. If there is a client that's coming in at the office, we all close our doors or go into another area. That's to maintain her dignity, that's to keep her comfortable and to keep her safe. And so that's some of the services that we provide at Shalva. Again, I just want to reiterate that all our clinical services, all our services are free, and that's something not to be underestimated. So if you feel that you or someone you know may be in an abusive relationship or marriage, call Shalva and ask to get the proper direction they will send you to. I was going to say something else. I just want to just explain what is domestic abuse. Domestic abuse is very simply, it's very simply a systematic pattern of power and control for the sole purpose of manipulating an intimate partner and a loved one. And really what we're doing here is to do abuse prevention, is to hopefully, please God, get everybody into a healthy and happy marriage. If that's what they want. Meaning to say, maybe a woman says or a man says, I'm not ready to get married. I don't want to get married. That's also okay. So I am privileged to work at Shalom. They have amazing, amazing women, amazing people that work there, amazing lawyers that are so dedicated to really helping everybody come. And to make that phone call, sometimes you need some help to make that phone call. Fine. So let's move on from there. I think I had said before, anything I speak about tonight can really be applied to anyone. There's lots of generalities. So while I'm speaking and trying to hone in on people that are struggling with mental illness, everything I say can and should apply to anybody. Like I said, don't shoot the messenger. Tonight I'm offering a buffet. Take what you like and you can leave the rest. I think it's important to set a parameter that when we're talking about mental illness, we need to understand that it's an array. And it's a large, large array from one end to the other, from one spectrum to the other. I'm not going to get specific. What I am going to say is that every person who is struggling with mental illness needs to understand how it affects them and how it affects their lives, and to have a support system in place. I happen to be a safety kid mom. And when we talk in the schools about safety kids, one of the things is bring a friend. Ask. There's lots of things that, and I always think about bring a friend, have a support system in place, have a Rav in place, have a mentor in place. If you can have your parents in place, have open conversations with them. Have people that are there for you, that meet you where you're at, that understand your desires and respect you for who you are and the things that you want. It's for anybody, it's always great to have other people to check in with. Does this make sense to you? I'm feeling this. Don't be scared to ask questions. Let's again, I use the word a lot, coming from a place of strength. What does that mean to come in from a place of strength? That means to come in from a place that says, I'm not compromising myself. I'm not twisting myself into a pretzel. I'm not working so hard to make this work when it's something I'm really not sure about. Take the time to address those things. Let's understand that in shidduchim, Hashem runs the world. He is the one who is mezaveg zevugim. He is the one who ultimately makes the shidduch. We have to do our hishtadlus. We have to do our best to be able to do it. We do our hishtadlus. We do our due diligence in navigating the shidduch process. And we believe that Hashem runs the world. We do what we can al pi derech hateva. We do what we do according to the laws of nature. But things are above nature. And many times if we look for it, we'll find it. So, one of the things that I like to say is go in with your eyes open. What does that mean? Go into a shidduch with your eyes open. Go in understanding yourself. One of the things that I like to say when we set ourselves up for success is before we can go into a relationship looking for love, we have to love ourselves. And that's really important. We have to accept ourselves for who we are, the good, the bad. We have to accept ourselves and understand this is what Hashem gave us. A lot of times I like to reframe my perspective, go in from a half cup full versus a half cup empty look. It doesn't mean my head is in the sand. It doesn't mean my head is in the ground. It doesn't mean I'm not aware of what's going on. It means that I love myself and I accept myself for who I am with my milas and my chisronos. And I was thinking about it. How do we frame our perspective? And here's some thoughts about somebody that I feel and the way that I see someone who's struggling with mental illness or struggling with whatever they may be struggling with, but again, specifically mental illness. I'm trying to look at it as a strength. We didn't choose, you didn't choose to have mental illness. Most of us don't choose the journeys that we're given. And it's how we navigate them and how we come to them. And if we're coming in from a place of strength. So I am putting on my glasses so that I can read this properly. If we want to reframe our perspective of how to look at things, we could say one who deals with mental illness is, I think I said this before, know what you're getting into. Build a relationship based on honesty and trust. Like yourself. Love yourself. Accept yourself. Someone who has mental illness is somebody who has a strength in character. They demonstrate responsibilities. They're able to have commitments. Remember, you have to have, I think Tamar mentioned she's always going to be on medication, right? And that's something she's very responsible about and demonstrates that responsibility, self-care, take care of yourself. A person who has mental illness has the ability to deal with adversity and navigate challenges and manage those. Those are strengths that a lot of people coming into a marriage don't have. They know how to reach out for help and they already have a support system in place. Again, think about your qualities and the things that you're good at and the things that you've had to overcome that you bring to the table as a mila, as a strength, as a good thing. Not, oh my gosh, I have this burden. Think of it as Hashem gave me this. What am I doing with it? We didn't ask for it. How am I managing it? And because I'm managing it the way that I am a better, stronger person because of it. You know, when we put our heads in the sand, all you see is sand. Unfortunately, I was talking with one of the therapists and she just shared with me how one of the clients that she's seeing had told her daughter is struggling with mental illness. And she said to her, don't take medication until after you get married. She's like, what? I'm like, what? I gotta share this with everybody. Marriage doesn't fix the issues. Take care of yourself before you get into a marriage. If you think you're struggling with mental illness, if you think you're struggling, and whatever that spectrum is, get the help you need. And in general, whatever baggage you're carrying into your marriage, into your relationship, try and unload as much as possible, or try to understand what you're carrying. Because that will help strengthen you and make you come in from a place of strength when we're dealing with getting into a relationship. You're not afraid to deal with things. I think I said it shows resiliency. Keep in mind statements like, I'm worth it. I'm worth this. One of my sayings, and this works for me and for a lot of the people that I work with, I like to use mantras. Keep my eye on the prize. What is my goal here? My goal is to get into a happy, healthy, safe relationship for a person who accepts me for who I am, that I don't have to change myself and that they're not trying to change me. That I accept myself for who I am and I accept them for who they are, whoever the they is. One of the things that I fear all the time in the parsha, in dealing with shidduchim in general, is that desperate people do desperate things. It's another one of my sayings. We don't ever want to go into any situation feeling desperate, feeling we don't have a choice, feeling bamboozled, feeling that we were pushed into it, feeling we weren't heard. And this also goes for the people that are supporting other people, the mentors, the moras, the rabbeim, the machanchim, the parents. Don't push. I will speak more about that a little later. Don't push. Trust your gut. Believe in yourself. Be your own cheerleader. Surround yourself with people that respect you and that make you feel good and that lift you up. These feelings and these opportunities will also help you when going into a relationship. Many girls have not really had real contact with boys or guys, and whether they did or didn't, these friendships give you an opportunity to explore how you're feeling and what relationship you get into. This is a caveat. I'm not sure if I should say it or not, but I really feel that I should. Just because a person is managing and dealing with mental illness doesn't mean they've lost their brains. I hope that's not offensive, but I do believe that even if, a person dealing with mental illness, they know what they want. They know what they like. Sometimes they may need people to put it in perspective for them and say, this might not be a good time for you to start dating right now. And we have a support system in place and we need to trust them and go back to them and say, okay, so if now is not a good time, what do you think I need to do so that it could be a good time? When might be a good time? Should I check back in 3 months? What should I do? Speak with your therapist, speak with your psychiatrist, speak with the Rav. Again, decide, speak with your parents. Is this a good time? And if it's not, again, explore why isn't it a good time? And then when should I check back? Don't leave it open-ended. I think that could just cause more anxiety personally. No, there's a beginning. We're going to check back in 3 months. We're going to check back in 2 months. Or these are the areas that I think you should be working on. Listen to the people that you're working with. I think I said earlier, I'm speaking in generalities. There's not one size fits all. When it comes to the Torah, we know there's Shivim Panim La Torah. There's 70 ways of interpreting the Torah. And just like workshops, just like dating, just like people, there are many different ways of navigating it. There are certain general guidelines, but it's okay to push those boundaries. It's okay to say, I'm not comfortable with that, or I need more time. I remember I do some coaching. I didn't mention, but I do some coaching on the side. And I remember working with a young lady and she wasn't sure, and it would have been 5 dates and she was feeling a lot of pressure. And I said to her, okay, we're going to reframe your perspective. Every date is a half a date. Go back to the shidduchim and say, I'm new at this. I work slow. I need to take my time. I want the pressure off of me. And I want you to let them know that every date is a half a date. And when she was able to look at it, that she only went out 2.5 times, it took a lot of pressure off of her and it made her feel more comfortable to go into the shidduch. It's okay. One of the things that Rabbi Cohen had spoke about when he spoke at the first program was the fact that we are all perfect in the way that Hashem created us. And I think that's such a beautiful thing. Our journey, how we are, our challenges is perfect for us. I don't know if we'd all ask for it, but it's the way it's made, it's tailor-made for us. And how we navigate that is our responsibility in the eyes of Hashem. As human beings, we are not perfect. Only Hashem is perfect. Only God is perfect. And we are here to work on ourselves and grow and become better and fulfill whatever journey, whatever purpose, whatever tafkid we're supposed to do. And we don't have to do it alone. We don't have to hide in shame. We don't have to be fearful. There are people out there. There are people you can trust and turn to for support. People who will respect you, people who will respect your journey and your choices. Putting on my glasses again. Again, work on your issues before you're married. And this goes to everybody and anybody. Marriage does not fix the issues. People joke around and say, oh, well, I'll just get them married off and everything will be okay. It's not funny. It's not even a joke. It's pretty lousy, actually. It really scares me when people say things like that. One of the things, what else we are speaking about is that, give me a sec. I did speak about coming in from a place of strength. So being secure with yourself, being confident with yourself, understanding the shidduch process, understanding it, working in it. Doesn't mean not to be flexible. You can be flexible. Don't compromise yourself. I remember I was once looking into a guy, and the shadchan kept saying to me, come on, I need an answer, I need an answer. And I was having a really hard time getting through to people and getting answers that I felt comfortable with. And I said to the shadchan, well, if you want an answer right now, the answer is no. She's like, what? I said, the answer is no, because I can't get comfortable with this. She's like, you're making a mistake. I said, maybe I am, but if you give me more time, if they give me more time, I can make a decision based on coming in, feeling comfortable and confident. I thought to myself, well, if the boy's family is pressuring me like this, it's not something, I can't respect that I need more time, that we needed more time to look into him. I felt like maybe this just isn't a shidduch for us then. You know, I needed to know that this was a family and people that were respectful. Ultimately, we got more time. It was the shadchan trying to give me pressure. And she thought she was doing the right thing, and I don't think that she wasn't. But she was doing her job, and it was my job to advocate for me and my children and our family. Ultimately, we did say no, it just wasn't a shidduch, but they're lovely people. So again, being able to stand up for yourself and articulate to say, I need more time, whether it's doing research, whether it's dating, you want to go in with confidence. You want to be able to navigate it to say, I need confidence. When you're dating, if there's a situation you're not sure about, talk to someone about it, tease it out, challenge it. Take the time to really think it through. You know, let's talk about the fact that we are in a system that does undermine us and does compromise us. It's not over, sometimes it's overt, but sometimes it's more subconscious. You know, desperate girls need shidduchim. Yeah, that doesn't make me feel good. Remember, desperate people do desperate things. I'm not desperate. Don't compromise my dignity. I don't believe Hashem wants us to compromise our dignity. I don't think that's the way to do it. And I think people mean well. You know, people will say, I'm going to use the word publicly, stupid things. We spell it in our house. They say things off the cuff. Well, don't you want to get married? Why are you being so picky? You know you have an issue. Well, all these things just make us feel bad and make us feel desperate. Some of the things that I like to have in mind is when people say things like that, they'll say, well, why are you being so picky? And I remember when somebody said that to me about one of our children, well, is she being picky? And I said, I sure hope so. This is her life we're talking about. When I'm a sheitel macher, so I would say, I'd rather they spend more time picking a husband than a sheitel. Don't you think so? And what it did is it stopped the people in their tracks to think about what they're saying. So what I'm saying is have a response. Have some repertoire, some sentences, some ideas in your head that you can pull out when necessary. Sometimes even repeating back what they say. Like, don't you want to get married? And you say back, did you just ask me, do I want to get married? And sometimes it makes the people realize, like, no, that's not what I meant. Of course you want to get married. You know, or having responses, well, do you think I should get married to the right one at the right time? Isn't that what we say? Maybe it's just not the right time. And things like that. I remember somebody once said to me, why don't you call the shadchan? And it was a shadchan I just couldn't deal with. And I said, I don't know if that's where it's going to come from. And I don't think I have to do that. So this is not bad shadchanim, by the way. I just want to be really clear. Shadchanim are people too. Shadchanim are messengers from Hashem. And shadchanim in general have people's best interest at hand. Nobody's trying to make a shidduch just to make a shidduch. They want to make a good, healthy relationship. Believe me, I've spoken to shadchanim who have made shidduchim where people have gotten divorced and they feel terrible. And they feel really bad about it. But it's not their responsibility to do the due diligence. It's not their responsibility to check into it. And it's some of them can guide and direct. But not necessarily does the shidduchim know you that well, and that's why it's always best to have a Rav or someone else involved who can help guide you and advocate for you. And if you need, have your parents, have whoever it is, be able to better navigate the process for you if you're feeling too vulnerable about it. You know, and sometimes a Rav, a therapist, somebody needs to get involved, and that's okay. The other thing I wanted to say is when people say stupid things, this is a high madrega to attend, to achieve, but I'm going to say it anyways. Sometimes we don't even have a response. Sometimes the embarrassment is so great that if we can, in the moment, think about it as a schus for us. We talk a lot and we learn a lot about busha, about embarrassment being a pathway to bring in the blessing, bring in the bracha into our lives. And who knows if we can think about that at a moment, if it happens to us or someone else, have someone in mind, whether it's ourselves or a friend. It's a lofty goal to attend, but I know many people can do it. It's not, it is attainable and it is reachable. I don't want to sound like a Rebbitzin, but I just feel it's something as from Jews, we really do believe. And we really do feel the same way we feel when we say B'shah Tova Mitzlachas, in the right time and in the right one. Those are not just statements. Those are things that we believe in. We have to believe it has to be the right one at the right time. Okay, so we're going to talk about what is a healthy relationship. A healthy relationship is valuing each other. When you go out, do you respect each other? Do you value each other? Do they care about what you say? When you problem solve together, when there is a problem that comes up, can you discuss it? Can you agree to disagree? Can you have differences of opinion? Remember that honesty and trust. This is where we talk about, do I disclose my mental illness? When do I disclose it? How do I disclose it? Do I trust the person to hold my secret? I think Fredelea said it so beautifully. Have they earned my trust? That means, do I feel comfortable and safe? Some of the things we should think about is if they feel too comfortable and too safe and don't ask you questions, I would consider that a red flag and a concern. You want somebody who's going to care enough and be curious enough to have the conversation and honest enough to understand what he or she is getting into, to be able to call a therapist, have the conversation, be able to support you in the way that you need it, and not use that against you. I think I said respect. Can they respect you? Responsibility. What kind of responsibilities do you think you bring to the table? What responsibilities can they do? How do you negotiate your differences? How do you navigate your relationship? I think I said this before, do you feel safe with them? Do you feel heard? Do you feel validated? All those things lead to healthy relationships. A relationship should feel good. A relationship should make you feel good and feel safe and secure. Not always walking on eggshells, not always trying to fit in, not to bend backwards, and not to do somersaults to make the shidduch work. We don't want to compromise ourselves, and we don't want to compromise our dignity. Make sure you take all the time you need. You're worth it. Sometimes the shidduch I've seen after 2 dates, we know what's going to happen. Sometimes after 10 dates, it happens. And sometimes after 10 dates, the shidduch is over. Take your time. Remember, you're worth it. Come in from a place of strength and say, if you want to marry me, or if you want to keep dating me, if you want to get to know more about me, I need the time, and I'm worth the time. Don't make decisions under pressure. Make them from a place of confidence, as confident as you can be. And if you're having trouble making that decision, understand why. Where's that coming from? Is it just that you're anxious? Is it that you're not comfortable? Is it coming from yourself? Is it coming because of something that the relationship is showing? Do you not like yourself when you're with that person? really take the time to think about it. Think about the things that are happening. Nobody's perfect. Think about whatever imperfections, whatever's bothering you. Think about, can I be okay with that? Is that something I can live with? Regardless whether you have a mental health issue or someone's disclosing a mental health issue to you. Is that something you feel you can handle? Go in informed, go in with your eyes open. Be confident when you're sharing your mental health issue. Be confident as you can to say, this is my issue. I'm a good person. It does define me. It doesn't define me. This is how it defines me. Again, it's not a one-size-fits-all answer. You got to ask the people around you to help you and to think about it. There will be times when you may not be in a good place. Trust the people that are helping you to help you navigate that. When you're ready to date, think about the qualities that you need. Think about your core values. Think about the things that you must have. Don't get lost in the weeds. Don't get lost, I like to say, in the packaging. Don't get stuck on things that may not be important in your everyday life. And really try to discern, how will this affect me? Think about your hashkafos. Think about your values. Think about the goals. Think about your strengths. Think about the things that make you tick, who you are, and what you think might complement you. And then be ready to be flexible. And those are subject to change. We're here tonight. We're doing our hishtadlus. We're doing our due diligence. We're trying to do our best. As I said earlier, Hashem is the one that is the one who makes the shidduchim. Why one girl gets married and why one girl doesn't get married, I don't know. I don't believe anybody really knows. And that the people that say, oh, well, there is a crisis, that's part of the hype. It tries to make us nervous and more anxious. And again, when we're anxious and nervous and vulnerable, we could make decisions that are not good decisions. We're not coming in from a place of strength. I am ready. Just because everybody says you're supposed to date at 19, well, who says that? I don't have to date at 19 if I don't feel ready. And if it takes me till I'm 24 to be ready, so be it. But again, strengthen yourself and strengthen you with people that will support you in the decisions that you feel are right for you. Remember, you're worth it. Everybody deserves to be in a good and healthy and safe relationship, regardless of your issues and your situation. I just want to give a quick message to the parents or the mentors or the support team or whoever's listening. Just a few quick points. Listen to the kids. Listen to the people that are dating. Listen to what they have to say. Respect their choices. Support them on it. Make them aware of the choices that they're making and why they're making them. Well, you want to do this, you want to say no, is that a good choice? Where's that coming from? Take the time to talk to them. And if you don't have the time or the patience or the knowledge, find somebody who does. Find another trusted person. Don't pressure them. Don't say, well, you know, you're already 29. Don't you think you should get married by now? You know, there's a shidduch crisis. That just puts pressure. Again, it does not provide a place of strength. It takes that away. Do your due diligence when doing your research. Ask the hard questions. Don't feel uncomfortable. Spend the time. Get confident. Hear consistent stories. Hear consistent narratives. If you're not hearing it, try to get as much clarity as you can. It is really cumbersome and takes an awful lot of time. This, I would say, look for a pattern, whether it's good or it's bad. And the same goes for when you're dating. If you're constantly hearing things, constantly hearing rationalizing, constantly hearing a pattern, or things that make you concerned, or things that you don't like, or things that are kind of like make your antenna go up or give you this icky pit in your stomach, whether you're the parent or the person dating, make sure to address those. Make sure not to ignore them. I always say, don't poo-poo things. It's not a big deal. Well, no, to me, it is a big deal. So let's discuss it. And if it's not such a big deal, then what's the harm in discussing it? So don't be scared to address them. Don't be scared to tackle those hard questions and say, this may be uncomfortable, but I just need to know. I mean, after all, if they're supposed to marry them, don't they think that they should be able to ask the right questions and ask questions and not feel uncomfortable? Be safe to ask whatever they want to say, obviously in a respectful and not attacking way, but from a place of confidence of, I need some reassurance, or I didn't understand this situation. And to be able to question it and understand. And if you're constantly hearing stories, and if you're hearing rationalizing, and if you're hearing, well, you know, we weren't really set up for success on our date, it was raining, or they didn't tell me not to wear heels, we were going for a walk. You know, listen for those tips, listen for those cues. They're clues to a bigger picture. I call them dots. Connect the dots. See where that picture paints you. See where it gets you. Look for how the person is. Are they happy? Are they excited? Are they nervous? Are they scared? You feel like they're not themselves, even when they're engaged. If they're not themselves, if they're changing, if they're feeling alienated, if they're saying your parents are not so good for you, or maybe I don't like your support team. These are red flags. These are really concerns to think about and take seriously. Again, just a couple takeaways that I want to share. My little mantras is it's really important to check in with your team and have that support team. And have your mentor, your Rav, your doctors, your people in place. Trust your gut. Don't be afraid to ask questions. You're not going to change the people. So where they're at is where they're at. You can't go into a situation assuming if someone's on medication that they're ever going to get off of it. You have to go in where they're at. Remember, I think I've said this about 18 times, keep in mind desperate people do desperate things. And remember, this is your journey, this is your life, and you're worth it. And Hashem, we should be zocha to find the right one at the right time. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mrs. Friedman. Can you see me?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mrs. Friedman, for your practical and insightful ideas and suggestions. At this time, we are going to begin our question and answer session. As a reminder, if you have a question, feel free to share your question in the Q&A section at the bottom of your screen. Be sure to click the checkbox that says Ask Anonymously so Mrs. Friedman and I do not see your name. We will not be using the raise your hand feature tonight. Please don't put your question in the chat, rather only use the Q&A section. So we have a couple questions that did come in and one that I'm going to start with. What is required to share with the shadchan and what is not?
Good question. You have to ask your own people. I can't answer that question because each situation is individual and it depends how much it impacts you. We know people that are struggling with mental illness, that mental health issues, that it really doesn't impact their life. Do they really have to share it? I don't know. I don't know that answer. That's an answer for a Rav. That's a question for a Rav. That's a question for your mentors and the people that are working with you. Only you know best how it impacts you. And I do believe that just because a person has and struggles with mental illness doesn't necessarily mean you have to marry someone who has that. Some people do set them up together because they feel that people struggling with the same issues understand each other better and can support each other better. I don't necessarily know the answer to that. Again, it's not a one size fits all. Ask your own personal people. Ask your people.
Thank you.
I do want to say a caveat regarding Shalva. I saw it in one of the questions that I forgot to mention that when somebody is in an abusive marriage that is living with an abuser, it does not mean they have mental illness. We do a disservice. They may have character flaws, but we do a disservice by grouping them with people that are really truly struggling with mental illness. And that's something I feel really strongly about. A person who has mental illness does not mean that they're abusive. So let's be clear about that.
Okay, we got a few questions in there. They're like excellent questions. Here's the next one. Where is the balance between being comfortable with yourself and your illness, but not going too far to the point of not wanting to change or to try to be better? And on the flip side, how do you know if you're pushing yourself too hard to change and it's time to just accept the illness and lay off?
Can you repeat that question? Because I'm not sure I got it all.
I didn't really get it either myself, I'll be honest. Where is the balance between being comfortable with yourself and your illness, but not going too far to the point of not wanting to change or try to be better? And on the flip side, how do you know if you're pushing yourself too hard to change and it's time to just accept the illness and lay off?
So I think that's a good question. And I think, again, that's a question, I'm not blowing it off, but it's really a question for your support team. And I think that's why having support people around you to be able to say, you're working too hard on this shidduch. You're working too hard, you're doing too hard, you're changing too much, you're not yourself. Whatever it may be, they can help guide you the best. Again, I can't give a one-size-fits-all answer because there isn't.
All right, thank you. Next question. Also, we've said that we can wait to date until we're at a better place. But how do you know what that place is? If you're battling perfectionism is something I'm trying to work on before I date, then I want to be perfect at that. How do I know when it's good enough to date, even if I'm not perfect?
Nobody's perfect, right? Only Hashem is perfect, and that's part of our journey. Just my opinion, being able to accept ourselves for our imperfections, being able to accept ourselves for our journey that we're trying to do better and working on ourselves is a good place. But again, I'm going to repeat myself again. The people around you will be able to best guide you and direct you. They may be the ones to say to you, you're really in a good place. It's coming from a place of your perfectionism or whatever else place it may be. But you're really in a good place. And if you feel ready to date, we support you.
Thank you. This is a very time-sensitive question. Do you think it's a good idea to date now during COVID?
Ask your own Shilas. Ask your own rabbi. It definitely is challenging. There's definitely a lot of discussion about it. I personally, this is now me, Esther Yona, talking. I would be more concerned and nervous about it. I think we miss a lot of opportunities, especially when we do date so short and quick. But many people have done it and have done it comfortably. Again, we got to be comfortable and we have to feel that we understand and know the people. So that's not a real answer. Ask your people, ask your own rabbis.
All right, next question. Do you think it's important for in-laws to know about a mental health condition?
Good question. Lots of good questions.
Yes.
I think it has to do in as much as it relates to how much support and care that the person will need going through their journey. I think that if it's something that really isn't a big deal, that's their choice. It could be between the couple. I don't know, that's my opinion. But again, speak to the people who guide you the best. I'm not the mental health therapist here, and I'm not your individual ones. So the people who guide you might know. Be prepared. See how they handle it and appreciate it. And if you really have to navigate the situation, each one on an individual basis. Is there harm in not sharing? I don't know. I don't know enough about each individual person's journey and challenges to know the answer.
We're getting excellent questions. We only have time for a couple more. How can I figure out if the guy is also waiting to trust me to share personal information as I'm waiting to see if I can earn his trust? Meaning, like, I want to know when it's a good time to share my information, but maybe he's also waiting to share something with me.
Well, I think that'll be in time. If you're comfortable, share what you should share. When he'll be comfortable, he'll share. And again, it's not a one size fits all. I would say start with small things, test the water, put your finger in the pot, kind of see like, oh, I was involved in a situation, and sort of test it. Maybe that would make you gain more confidence and comfortableness to address it.
Thank you. If you've been in an abusive relationship or marriage and it has ended, how do you prevent it from happening again with someone else?
Come to Shalom.
What'd you say?
Come to Shalom. Really, you have to do the work. You have to do the work. You have to do the therapy. You have to understand your situation. You have to a woman or a man has to rebuild their sense of self, rebuild their core. Go in with your eyes open. Trust your gut. Listen to those little feelings in your stomach, the little butterflies, the little feelings, the flutters. I call it those icky feelings sometimes that you're like, oh, I don't know why I'm feeling this way. Coming from a place of strength. Feel that you're worth it and you're worthy. Date well. Take your time. Those are things that can, whether it's a first marriage going in or a second marriage or leaving an abusive, those are all good tools and things to do to get into a healthy relationship.
This will be our last question. Regarding COVID dating, do you think people are being their true self?
I don't know. Are they ever being their true self when you're dating? Is whether it's COVID or it's a regular date without COVID? I don't know. But if you have a sense of yourself and your true self, you're feeling comfortable with yourself there, see how you're feeling. And then you can reflect and see how they're feeling. And sometimes you have it where they're not feeling themselves. And that's also okay. It doesn't mean that you have to marry them. I know that's not a very clear answer. The answer is we don't know. And that's why we date. And if we think they're not being authentic, then we date longer. In my opinion.
Okay. So I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Carol Rudderman, Executive Director, and Vicki Rifkin, Outreach and Education Legal Liaison, both of Shalva, for making this event possible this evening. Thank you as well to Mrs. Esther Yona Friedman for preparing and delivering such practical remarks tonight. It is our hope that the more we have discussions like tonight's, the closer we will get to removing the stigma surrounding mental illness, specifically within the Jewish community. Whether you're currently facing a mental health challenge or not, the tips Mrs. Friedman shared this evening can be applied to any relationship and can be used to build a happy and healthy marriage and home. Thank you all for joining us this evening, and have a good night.